Hello and welcome to another episode of Scott Schilling Speaks. I'm your host, Scott Schilling. Got a good friend here today. He's a business consultant. He's an executive coach. He's a radio show host. He does all sorts of stuff. Chris Salem, thanks for joining me here today.
Scott, it is a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we were just talking before we went on, a little bit about the state of business today. Give us the state of business the way you see it.
Well, I mean, there's always been this uncertainty in anything in business, but we've obviously had more uncertainty over the last more than year and a half now with COVID, and now with this emergence of this, this variant, Delta variant. Our people are saying, "Oh, is it going to come back, and we're going to be on lockdown again?" I'm just saying that I think that people now have a better perspective now of how to navigate this and finding alternative ways to that they can still do business. Not everybody can do it the right way. Some people are going to be limited, but for the most part, I'm starting to see, especially people in our line of business, Scott, that would normally, let's say if you're a speaker, you were out there speaking face to face, that we learned to adapt it to do it more virtually, that we could do workshops virtually, we could do breakout sessions, we could do little mini retreats. I mean, granted, you can't keep people on for a full day or a day on Zoom, but if you broke it up over a period of time where they can really digest, this content that's compelling to them in chunks, it was still effective. And so these are some of the things that I'm seeing, that people have gotten more creative and more innovative in how they can go about still keeping their business moving along. It may not be that you're at that peak level that you once were. Some people are, but as long as you're still in the game, that's all we can ask for, because there's going to be a lot of things that are beyond our control in this situation.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the opportunity business will never be done the exact same way again. I think we all have adopted that going forward. There's going to be a whole lot more online, but there's some efficiencies and things that have been gained through all this as well, correct?
Yes. Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I think that, again, that when you look at, anything, I'm a big advocate. You can only control what you can, and you have to learn how to let go of what you can. If you get caught up in the problem with the things you can't control, it's just going to further create more worry, more anxiety. And then you're not going to be thinking clearly. So, and this was something that took me a long time to figure out, but thank God I did it a while ago. That when these situations happen, I can say, okay, what can I control right now in this moment? How can I maximize that? And just trust the process of letting go of what I can't control, that things will work out. And when I look back, it always tends to work out. Don't get me wrong, you go through some challenges, some setbacks, but it's what you become in that process, and knowing that it's happening to you, or happening for you and not to you. It's like changing your mindset to that.
I think mindset is obviously a huge player in this whole thing. One of my guests the other day said, it's kind of that mentality. You go to the barn, you see the pile of manure, and you go, there's got to be a horse in here somewhere, right? Taking that and really going forward. So what are you telling your clients? I know you do a lot of business consulting.
Yeah.
What are you telling your clients as far as prepping and making their best headway through this period of time?
Well, what I try to educate my clients on, whether if it's an individual or a company, it's, keep focusing on what you can control in your core line of business. But at the same time, look for ways that you can connect with your audience on why you do what you do, not just what you do. Because there could be some other opportunities out there that have nothing to do with what you do, but can position you for some other opportunities that later can enhance your business, or could generate income that, is indirect to your business, but it's still something that's, it's still revenue. So I'll give you an example. I have a client that is a CEO and founder of an ice cream company. They make allergen-free ice cream. It's all homemade, and they have a factory in Westchester County, and they also have a couple retail establishments. Now, obviously, during COVID last year, though, that was affected. They had to shut down, And most restaurants were operating at 20% capacity. That was a big part of their business. They do a lot of events like weddings and outdoor events. That was affected. So they were still able to go maximize what they could control. But this person was also a very good speaker. We had her enroll in a Goldman Sachs small business program. She was their top speaker in that program, which got some recognition. We were able to find out that she had a knack for developing youth leaders. And some of the people that worked in her retail establishments had been there from high school, and they were in college, and really responded to her mentorship and the way she led by example. So we began to position her to get on podcasts and virtual stages to talk about youth leadership. Had nothing to do with ice cream. And so it happened, there was a person listening that actually had worked for a corporation that was in charge of their employee recognition incentive programs. And she loved her talk on youth leadership and really, reached out, and then found out she also was the CEO and founder of an ice cream company. And a light bulb went off in her head. Not my client, but the person listening. Sure. By any chance, we're coming up with some creative ideas to incentivize and recognize our employees during this difficult time. Are you able to send freeze-dried ice cream to people? And my client's like, well, yeah, because we do that with our restaurants that we, deal with. And I had been telling her this, and she was like, oh my God, he's right. It goes, this had nothing to do with their business.
Right.
But yet it did eventually, because if it wasn't for her speaking, it wouldn't have led to this opportunity. So she was able to create a new business channel during COVID that helped her to offset some of the losses in the core areas. And then when things started to pick up again, her core business came back like a lion. I mean, she actually had her best months of June, July, and August, where they were short staffed. They couldn't even keep up with the amount of business that was coming their way. So it's just, again, being alert. I know a catering company where when things were stagnant, they couldn't do events. So this was a large catering company. And what they did is they got involved in some charity work. They were doing some charity work and got involved in that. And people really began to see what this catering company was doing, and got to see their values. So when things started to lift and events started to come back slightly, the people were thinking about that catering company over the rest, and that helped generate more business as a result of it. So the things that they were doing based upon why they do what they do, not just what they do, help them in their core business. So those are the things that I advocate, Scott, that could really help during these times. You don't be narrow. Don't think yourself in a box. Don't have a box. Just keep your options open.
Really,
you have to
really
be fluid and adapt.
Becomes that possibility thinking.
Absolutely.
We were having a conversation the other day on one of the shows about the things that, because there's a different level of conversation happening, or potentially can be. Not everybody's doing it, but I'm suggesting to a lot of my clients that they, that we just have conversations and we explore. Same thing. Look outside the box. Heck, there's not even a box. Look outside the possibilities and say, yeah, this is what we've done in the past. And it's amazing how with one, we're looking at implementing something that, quite frankly, I don't think has ever been done. That's a big statement, because it's possible that it has been. We hadn't heard of it, but all of a sudden it was like this. If in fact we can get this done, oh my God, the size of the market is amazing. And we never would have thought about that prior. A little, I don't know, forced critical thinking. I mean, right? All of a sudden you start to see the possibilities going forward. So what other things are happening in your world that, because I know that you do such a great job in coaching your folks and working to lift them up. How are the, some of the capital things and a variety of things that you're involved in, how are they coming back together after all of this?
It's coming back, pretty well. And just getting back to being open to new possibilities. I have I have a client that I worked with just about a year ago, where they came to me. They were a startup. They've been around for about a year and a half, but they were pre-revenue. And we got their business plan revamped and done. We did a pitch deck and got their executive summary in order. And we began to start going out there positioning to them to investors. Now, there was still a lot of startups out there. They were pre-revenue. It's not easy to get money with pre-revenue. We started getting some people interested, but they wanted to see some traction before they decided to invest. And I've been working with this one investor out in Silicon Valley for them. And he was a real nice guy, but, done very, very well for himself. He also has this travel insurance business, and they have affiliates and all over, all these different sites, and they get business from a lot of different channels. And he really loved the concept. The name of the company is Alumni Direct, and they're a social media community platform. And he really loved the concept. But as an investor, he said, I want to be able to see what they can do before I invest. Now, what he's done so far, he doesn't have to invest a dime. I've already said, you're already going to have equity, or we're going to make you the primary affinity partner with the CEO, of course, his permission. We were able to work with him where he said, listen, you guys need an enterprise ready site. Your site is great, and you did a great job, but this needs to be like enterprise ready. This is like where the big boys play. And he said, I have a team out in India that can, do this. And you also need an app, because we didn't have an app at the time, even though that was in the plan for Android and iOS. So we are having an enterprise site that's being done as we speak. It's going to be done in about a month and a half, actually now. Apps for Android and iOS users. This was equivalent to about maybe a couple $100,000 it would have cost to do all this. It didn't cost a dime.
Wow.
Zero.
Nice.
Zero. So it's things like that. But again, it's being open in your thinking and coming from shared values and operating from your why. And this is how I was able to connect with this gentleman. And we were both big fans of Bob Berg, the Go-Giver. I told him I knew Bob. He loved Bob. And we just connected. And then it just sort of led into this dance that led to what's going on here today. So these things are possible. They're out there. It's just that you can't control you can only control what you can. And that's what I did. I just maximized what I could control, and then just let everything unfold from there. And it worked out real well.
People have taken a different attitude towards business coming along. I think a more empathetic, more compassionate feeling towards a lot of different things. I know there's some wonderful projects going on that I'm involved with, that we're really talking about community and building up, and what's the community that's being built is so nurturing. That they want to uplift, they want to be of service. In fact, we've many times the response to the first thing that you hear from a call with a new person is, how can I be of service? Right.
Absolutely.
From that side. Now, for me, coming out of the Ziegler camp here in Dallas, it's always been, you can have everything in life you want when you help enough other people get what they want.
Absolutely.
I think there's a little bit of, I don't know if it's golden rule or better rules. I think people are playing nicer these days. Would you agree?
I agree. I think nowadays what you've seen as a result of this, what I think is good, is that you see more collaboration going on. You don't feel this competition like, hey, I'm out to bury these people and for my gain. It's about collaboration. There's more than enough out there. It's just a matter of like, how can we work together to do what's right? It comes back to those values again. What's right for the audience? What's right for that certain niche that you're in, maybe perhaps with other people, and that we could all try to find a way to win and do what's right. And that's kind of like, I've always had that approach for quite some time. And, because I was a very competitive person, being in sales like you and coming from that arena. But I just learned to think, start to think my whole process all over again. And I just see a lot of collaboration happening during this time, and which I think is great. And I think if there's anything positive about COVID and this what's happening in this decade going forward, it's that.
Agreed. The desire to collaborate makes so much more sense. And even if even if there is competition, it's really co-opetition, right?
Yeah.
We're going to cooperate with each other a little bit, that we both have the opportunity to go and come through it all. Now you're out on the East Coast. I'm in Dallas, Texas. I'm in the middle of the country. How are you handling this, or how is this entire disruption being handled on the East Coast? Just because I think it's probably different than it is down here.
It's a little different. I mean, because here you tend to, it's more kind of more Democratic up here than Republican. Not that I like to get into the politics. So there's some little more stricter guidelines. Things got a little laxed, obviously, maybe around March, where, places where you could go into and not wear a mask, if, especially if you were vaccinated. But now those mandates have come back now with the variant. So now if you go into a gym, you have to wear a mask, whereas before you didn't have to. And even restaurants now, unless you're eating, you have to wear a mask. So it's been fine. I mean, I've been fine. Like I've always wear a mask when I go into a public place. I never changed any of that, and just out of courtesy for other people. And I'm just, again, I adapt. I adapt and modify to whatever the situation is. If I can't control something that that's how I did it, well, then I got to adapt and modify to it. And that's pretty much what I've done in this situation, and just accepted the fact that, hey, the things I can't change, I just got to let it be.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. I think the mindset of control the controllables and let the other stuff go away. I was sharing with somebody the other day. I think one of the things that we have to do, again, not talking politics here, but just humanity. We've got to come closer to the middle and have some common ground, because we can't get anything accomplished if we're on polar opposites. I mean, polar opposites are as far away from each other as you can go, and that doesn't really work in trying to fix some things, right?
Correct.
So, how are you helping your clients and folks these days really promote that they're in business, that we're here for you, that we'd love to be of service to you? How are you able to help them get the word out that things are as close to normal as possible?
Well, I mean, it's again just determining who their core audience is and how they like to be communicated to, and it's finding those platforms, whether if it's social media, whether if it's email or text, or video, or virtual events, whatever the case may be. Because I have individual clients and then I have company clients, and it's always putting stuff out that's compelling to your audience. It's not necessarily what you do. It can be things that have nothing to do with the business. It can be on why you do it. It was kind of like that example I used with the catering company when they got involved with the charity. They were doing nothing that had nothing to do with their business. It was all around the charity, values, creating community in the situation. And then it just had a ripple effect on their business when things started to come back. And those are the things that I'm advocating to my clients, is just being out there, being compelling to people, empowering them to draw their own conclusion, to connect with them on shared values, and knowing that when the time comes, when they feel like you understand them on whatever level that is, now they want to know what you do and how you can help them, or they feel comfortable referring someone they know to you. And that's what I call the power of influence. Influence is all about empowering people through compelling content to draw their own conclusion. You're not persuading them and telling them how, when, or why to do something. That to me is the art of enrollment. Once you get them to that place, they feel related to, understood. If they're open for a suggestion or recommendation, great. And then you get to the real true challenge, the pain point, what they really want and desire, and then you enroll them into whatever that may be.
You talked again about shared values there. How do you help somebody really, if they haven't been promoting that? Obviously we all have our values, But if they haven't been calling that out, how do you help them really develop what their shared values are and then communicate it to the marketplace? How do you do that?
So first, it's got to start with making sure that what are their values internally? Not everybody in their company is going to have the same core values. Like for me, my values are transparency, honesty, and integrity. That reflects in my personally, in my business, as well as in both business and personally, both. And so when I relate to my customers, they're connecting on shared values. That doesn't mean they have to be transparent, honest, or integrity. They may be trustworthy. They may value being ethical, or they may value, family. Those are shareable values that we can connect on. Now, if something contrasts those values, okay, then we're not going to connect. It doesn't mean they're wrong, I'm right, or I'm wrong and they're right, or they're a bad person, or I'm a bad. It just means that we're not, that energy doesn't connect. So it's teaching companies and people that you're never going to be everything for everyone, but you're always going to be something for someone, in this case more than one person. Find where you can connect on at least one shared value, something, and putting out content that doesn't necessarily have to say that, hey, it's integrity, but things that will relate to something like that, and people will then resonate. I remember I worked with a real estate agent about 3 years ago that she was not producing at all. I mean, she was a nice person, good personality, never a go-getter, but just, it was not producing. She had strong family values. She valued family. She had a great family, and she contributed to a nonprofit organization that catered to family development in her community. And she used to write articles for them, and she loved doing it, volunteer work. And I said to her, this is a golden opportunity for you. She goes, what are you talking about? That has nothing to do with real estate. I said, no, but I bet if we look at this, that this is where you're going to get your book of business going. And she didn't understand at the time. And I said, does anybody know when you contribute your content if they know you're a realtor? No, I don't sign I said, I don't think the organization would allow me to do that. I'm saying, well, no, I'm not saying that you tell them what agency you work for and that you want to list some homes in your content. You can't do that. But just put that you're a realtor. That's it. Just a realtor. And that you're in this community. People loved her content. They embraced her content. Even people from the outside that were looking to move into the area would read her content because they wanted to see if this was a safe place to move their family, good school system. When they found out that she was a realtor, they were connecting with her now on why she did what she did, those values, those family values. She began to generate a book of business from that had nothing to do with real estate. She was doing all the other things that the realtor or the real estate agency told her to do. Develop your sphere of influence, 50 to 100 people, go out and make calls, build alliance partners. She did a lot of that, and she just wasn't getting a lot of traction. She was able to generate a significant amount of business from this format, and it helped her. Even through COVID, she still was doing okay. And like I said, she never would have thought of that. And these are the things, that's just evidence of these things that they can work, that you just got to be open. And when you can connect, when companies can learn that and implement that into their branding, into their, into adding value on a consistent basis, that's going to keep things moving along and keeping new customers coming in and referring people because they have good experiences. Again, going back to those values.
You said an important word there, consistently doing it.
Yeah.
Going to the marketplace. Again, we were talking prior to coming on air about I'm now doing 5 shows a week, and I enjoy it because I get to talk to 5 friends a week or more and really do it. But it's whether it's once a week, once a month, 5 days a week, it's a consistency process of knowing that there are going to be amazing guests like you. There are going to be great content that's available, and there's a congruence, right? You're congruent in getting the message out of wanting to be of service on a consistent basis. And it's amazing what happens when you're consistently out there. And also amazing when you're out there intermittently, how business tends to drop.
It does. You're out of sight, out of mind. I mean, people are caught up in their own lives, their own challenges. Businesses are caught up in their own as well. It's not like they're just thinking about you, and it's nothing personal. So again, it's not about what makes you unique. What makes you compelling to them. And then when you're compelling to them and they feel understood and related to, now what makes you unique is more important. Just like the real estate agent. Anybody could have called 10,000 realtors in a 60-mile radius. Why would they call her? Well, they called her because they connected on those family values. It's not because she was a real estate agent and she worked for XYZ realtor company. It was because of her and those values. So that's where a lot of times I think people don't realize. And like you said, with your show being out there 5 days a week, you're in front of people, regardless if they know that consciously, it's subconscious. It could be just, saw it in a passing on a post that you made in some group. Maybe they weren't conscious to it, but somehow they remember, subconsciously picked up on a title of the show, and maybe your guest or whatever it has a prolonged effect in really helping people to, again, when the time comes and they're looking for something, they're going to remember you now over
Yep.
somebody else.
It was very nice. Just prior to today's show, I got a couple notices, one on LinkedIn and one elsewhere, that a guest from probably 10, 12 days ago took the recording of the show, rewrapped it, did everything, and now put it out in their marketing. And quite frankly, it looked pretty darn good. I might have to hire him to do the trail posting of different things going on. We're starting to run down on time here. How about some common sense wisdom that people can put into action today to help grow their business?
So I would just say that wherever you are, make sure that you have a plan in place. I know some people out there think plans are overrated, but if you don't have a roadmap to really follow, I mean, that map may have to be modified, or it may have to adapt to a new normal that we're in, because otherwise, if we have everything up here, we're going to get distracted, and life and business are going to get in the way. So we have to be able to see it and be able to really, really be focused on each task, each subtask, to lead us to where we want to be. So it's, for me, it's having a foundation, waking up in the morning, having your own personal success foundation, meditating, journaling, maybe making your bed, working out, something that's going to get you into the moment, so that when you come in, it's going to impact your self-esteem, your confidence. You become a better communicator, a better active listener. You make swifter decisions. You take calculated risk, and you take massive action on what you can control only. When people observe that in you, they're going to start to look in themselves, like, what can I do better for myself? So you're creating an interdependent environment, which can only lead to better results long-term, because you impact so many people in a positive way, not in a codependent negative way. So these are the things that I strongly advocate. Again, having a success foundation, building one, having a routine, knowing your values and how that can relate to, your business direction and why you do what you do, having a plan and executing that plan, and then modifying wherever required, and just trusting that process of controlling what you can, letting go of what you can't. And then a final statement would be giving without expectation, meaning value, from empathy and kindness, of course, which is interdependent, not pleasing and enabling others, doing, which is codependent. Give without expectation, receive without resistance, meaning that when it comes back to you from somewhere else, you don't question it, you receive. It's like that you did something for someone, they didn't return the favor to you, it's okay. But it came back from something else. It may have nothing to do with your business, but it came to you, whether if it's money, whether if it's new business, whether if it's a recognition or a thank you, or something a barter that can help you in your business, like what I told you with my client, with the app and the enterprise-wide website. It's things like that. If you trust that process, nothing's guaranteed in life, but I can almost guarantee that you will see those results happen in real life. And I've been living like that and operating business like that for quite some time, and it just always holds up true for me.
Yeah, really, really solid suggestions there, really solid information. how do our listeners get a hold of you if they'd like to reach out?
Yeah, thank you, Scott, for having me. I really appreciate all you do here. Best way, if you want to check me out on my website at christophersalem.com. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn at Christopher Salem. I tend to be more there. There, you can reach out. And then also my email is chris@christophersalem.com. Love to get to know you and a little bit about your business. And it's all about relationships, not transactions. Just like to get to know people first, their businesses, and see where things go from there.
Yeah, excellent. I totally agree with you there. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us here on Scott Schilling Speaks. We'll see you again on Monday, exact same time. God bless.